Welcome to The Recovery Show with Dr. Joe and Angelina. For the next 2 hours, we'll be discussing addiction, recovery, and human connection. I'm a double board certified addiction physician practicing here in Newport Beach and Costa Mesa. I'm joined by Angelina, an associate clinical social worker who also works in the field of addiction and mental health treatment. Tonight, we hope to inform you, connect you to the people who can help you, to help you take on life a little bit better prepared than when you started. It's The Recovery Show. I'm Dr. Joe. Welcome back. Thank you.
What a week, right?
No.
Yeah.
There's a wicked full moon coming tomorrow.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Something's going on.
This week needs to end like tonight.
It has been
Let's call today.
trying week. I know. I know. But you know what I did do yesterday? I was all proud of myself.
What?
I went to the gym. I know. Well, at least for the assessment part. that kind of counts.
Did you break a sweat?
You know what though? I got up at 4:45 in the morning, and I was dying. I normally wake up around 5:30ish,
Oh, look at you.
so I did get up a little earlier than usual and got myself to the gym. And I was really proud of the first step of the commitment. So
It starts with the first step.
It really does, and I told myself, all right, and I made the commitment to the person I'm working with that I'll be there again on Monday to have the next session.
You took a commitment at the gym.
I
Very
did.
nice. I'm very impressed.
I figured I'm paying for this. Well, they're paying for this membership, so I better show up to start using it.
We?
Anyway, so
you were listening to The Recovery Show. This is a show about addiction and the world of treatment. The world that we need so much that's coming under scrutiny, assault from all sides. I'm not going to beat that drum again today.
No.
You know, it's time for a solution. Actually, I wanted to open up with an interesting topic because I've been seeing this popping up a lot more lately. People in recovery worried about their testosterone levels and getting back to the gym. So speaking of the gym, what a great segue, unintentional segue. And the focus of everybody's on body image and replacing testosterone and becoming a man. And you'd mentioned this pre-show, and you wanted to kind of broach that topic, and I thought that was great because it's been popping up in my with my patients.
Well, I think it's interesting. I think the focus on definitely physical fitness. It's a part of recovery, and I think it's important. But it can become a new addiction, and people do become sometimes obsessed with it. But getting back to the approaching and dealing with testosterone for men, I think is a really important subject. And I wanted you to kind of talk a little bit more about why it is.
Well, testosterone is basically the master male hormone. It gives us our male drive. It gives us our sex characteristics as men, hair on our chest, our libido.
And what happens in substance use?
And erectile function as a result of. Also motivation and aggressiveness. Men with typically higher levels of testosterone are typically the more aggressive, the more likely to be alpha males and, have the more male features. And those who have either higher level of estrogen compared to testosterone will have more feminine features. They'll have more, shapely bodies.
So, would you say though it's fairly common for males that have been using substances chronically?
Oh, that was your
and
question.
Excessively, yes.
Yes.
That their testosterone levels are possibly lower.
Opiates and alcohol are notorious in different ways for lowering testosterone levels with chronic use.
Right.
And we typically see somebody who's been on an opiate, whether it's a pill or heroin, over a year, over 2 years, you'll notice that the testosterone levels are starting to drop. And if somebody's been on it for a long period of time, sometimes 20, 30-year-old men will come in with testosterone levels of like an 80-year-old woman.
So, what are the symptoms of a lower testosterone level?
It could be as subtle as just fatigue.
Okay.
Low drive. It could present as depression. Typically, your body mass changes. You go from a more muscular kind of, physique to kind of fat, and fat gets deposited in different areas. You start becoming more hippie. And I don't mean like from the 60s. I mean you start putting weight on where women would put weight on.
Okay, interesting.
Which is not attractive.
On a male. Let's just specify that.
Well, I'm assuming that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah, of course.
Sex drive goes in the toilet, but I mean that goes hand in hand with typical, chronic opiate use and long-term alcohol use. And alcohol can also affect the liver. It can affect how testosterone is transformed into more female hormone than not. Marijuana has a lot to do with that too. It can affect the liver's metabolism of testosterone, which is why you get gynecomastia or breast enlargement in men.
Oh, okay, that's fascinating.
And then the thing that usually brings patients in is low sex drive. They're walking down the street, typical looking at a woman, and the response that they get in their head is not what it used to be. And they're expecting this to come back in early recovery. And with the youngsters, it kind of does right away. And that's not necessarily a good thing.
Right.
Got to keep them corralled and, keep them focused on why they're in treatment. But the older gentlemen want that to come back, especially if they're in a relationship with a woman.
Right, I can understand that. So, when would you recommend, or do you think it's recommended for most opiate users and alcoholics to get their testosterone levels checked, regardless of age?
Regardless of age, absolutely. In my practice, I check it on everybody that comes in. Do I necessarily do anything with that information? Sometimes I do if it's striking. The flip side of treatment with testosterone when somebody's in early recovery, it increases aggressiveness, it increases impulsivity, and these things can lead to relapse. Increases anger levels. All right, especially if somebody's overdosaging. I don't want to say overdosing, but taking too large of an amount. Relative to their levels. And a lot of times it could be a psychological distraction from their recovery. So I try to kind of keep it in the background. I'm paying attention to it, but I don't want my patients to pay attention to it.
And, I'm sure like anything, once you stop using substances, that it will come back naturally. But how?
There's a couple of herbal supplements that are really safe that have, in clinical trials, been shown to raise testosterone levels and lowering estrogen levels. One of them is Tribulus terrestris.
Okay, well, we're going to have to put that on that Facebook page because I'm not even going to repeat that. So
Tribulus terrestris, taken
Okay.
as 750 milligrams twice a day,
Okay.
has been shown to raise testosterone levels by 10%, 10 to 20%. Which is sometimes all anybody needs. Resistance exercise, especially lower body resistance exercise, raises testosterone.
Did you hear that, guys? Get in the gym, lower body resistance exercise. That's good to hear too.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Focus on your legs, guys.
So that's really important. I know at the treatment center that I work for, and a lot of the good treatment centers out there, they incorporate physical activity and gym into their programming. And because it is really important to get out there, and another reason why, helping you rebuild your testosterone levels.
And it's the most potent stimulator of natural endorphins in early recovery.
Right.
To get going with yoga, get going at the gym, with safe parameters, obviously.
And so that's the other side of it. There is a side of it where, people start taking it and they start supplementing it and it becomes too much. And so, we talk about people getting back in early recovery or in recovery in general, and it becomes, exercise becomes a new addiction. And then they start taking testosterone, they start taking it too much, and so on.
It's the body. So many things get wrapped up into it. So you start getting back into the addictive cycle, which has nothing to do with drugs and alcohol. It has to do with your relationship with substances to make you feel a certain way, period.
Right.
And then you start getting into body dysmorphia. You start getting into self-esteem that's related to your body image, which has been shown in studies to not be directly related to body image at all. It has to do with your depression scales. So the more depressed you are, the more crappy you feel about how you look.
Right.
And the more you focus on that one body part, and body dysmorphia can lead to, we've had shows on anorexia, bulimia. It's a direct pipeline to an eating disorder.
Right.
So testosterone can indirectly produce that. So we got to be really careful with how we recommend it and to whom, and kind of got to keep people distracted. Get them focused on their spiritual program, on abstinence if that's the road that they choose. That's what I recommend, and keep them focused that way.
An interesting little fact about testosterone that I remember learning in school, that testosterone levels once a male, in a male and female companionship, once the husband, say they're married, and the wife has a baby, I know that I'm having a little story here. Once the mother has the baby, that the testosterone levels will drop in the male, in the father.
Really?
Yes, so that he becomes more nurturing and can bond.
And does not eat the baby?
And does not eat the baby. No.
Don't eat the baby.
And oxytocin levels rise, so that he can bond more with the baby. I heard that. I read that. And it's kind of some studies that I read. It's pretty interesting.
And it kind of keeps the men from straying too.
That, exactly.
That's
yeah.
not fair.
It's pretty interesting. Yeah. I just think testosterone levels that are too high can be pretty frightening for some women out there.
Well, that's how you broached the subject to me. As you were
I
talking
did.
about.
Just some women I've been
Is it-
talking to and being with partners that are using way too much testosterone early in recovery. And they've got these partners that have gone from being, basically very uninteresting in bed to being animals, and they're like, oh my god, this is crazy, what do we do?
And is that a good thing or a bad thing?
For some of them, they're like, it was great in the beginning, but now we're getting exhausted.
You women always say you want that, and then after a while you're like, all right, let's knock this out.
Yeah.
So
We're like, once a day was great. 5 times a day, we can't keep up. We have to go to work. And there's silence in the room.
really,
Anyway, we haven't a guest with us.
no. I want to talk about one thing really fast.
Yeah. You're making me blush.
On the you're making yourself blush. Don't look at me. What do you think about this? Okay, I read this on the Fix Tip. Whoa, Kratom vending machines are making waves in Arizona. Kratom vending machines. First of all, Kratom.
Tell
It's an
our audience-
opioid.
Yeah, tell our audience what it is.
Kratom is a ground plant, okay, which has opiate-like qualities. It is an opiate. It's a weak opiate.
Right.
If you take enough of it, you can get loaded and you get high. And the person who wrote this article, Victoria Kim, let me give her the byline.
Vending machines, great for
Her-
opiates.
okay.
That's just unbelievable.
Okay, I thought this was going to be an article against it. This is actually a pro-Kratom article, which is completely ridiculous. You know how many relapses we have in our treatment centers on Kratom?
Right.
Because the patients don't think we test for it.
Right.
Guess what? We test for it. Okay, so I'm quoting, what it shows is that our opioid epidemic is touching everyone. Maybe a person who's going to walk into that sandwich store, so if the sandwich store had a Kratom vending machine, has never heard of Kratom. Maybe this will be their first day off of opiates. No, Kratom is an opiate.
Right. Put it right next to the meth vending machine.
And then she writes,
Are
we
you serious?
need anything and everything in this war on the opioid epidemic. No, we don't need Kratom vending machines.
We
That's
definitely don't.
not
That's so
going
ridiculous. That's so ridiculous.
Okay.
Come on.
Yes.
Yeah, that's insane.
Well, somebody responded already. We need Kratom vending machines out in California. Yeah, that's what we need is Kratom vending machines.
Right.
I don't know. I look at this article and I see job security. What do you see?
That people still want to check out. That there's just this,
Yeah.
this intense desire to check out of reality. That people don't want to be connected. That's what I see. And, being connected is really not all that scary. It's tough, but, being connected and rooted in reality and living your life, not being on substances, is actually a beautiful thing.
Okay,
most of the time.
That's the whole idea. That's the whole idea of treatment. Okay, yeah, there's a small arm of harm reduction. Okay, we don't want people stealing things. We don't want people spreading diseases. We don't want people overdosing, obviously.
Right.
But to use this as imply that this is harm reduction.
That's not harm reduction. A vending machine.
That's like saying Vicodin is harm reduction for heroin.
And harm reduction also, and there's harm reduction is that, and there's a place for that for certain people, with the ultimate goal being abstinence. So
I want to have a huge panel on this show one day about MAT and harm reduction, and I believe in harm reduction. Who doesn't? That's almost like a word trap. That's almost a semantic trap. Of course, you want harm reduction.
Right.
No, I don't want harm increase.
Exactly.
As a physician, first do no harm. Second, treat people with the least harmful remedy.
Right. So many directions we could go.
Yeah, okay, but with addiction, it's not that simple.
No, it really isn't. There isn't one size fits all. And you can't just treat people the same. I mean, if you did, we would have this solution, wouldn't we? We'd have this fixed, and it just doesn't work that way. Everybody's an individual.
And I think we'd be out of a job, or our job wouldn't be as interesting. I'd be replaced.
I'd be okay being replaced. Maybe I'd go and paint. I'd go do something else if that meant that people were getting help and they were well and they didn't need to use substances anymore. I'd be okay doing something else.
I can't paint.
Yeah, I know you can't.
I could go be that. I could be that marine biologist. I've always. I had this image of when I was in college. I was going to, sit on a beach, smoke marijuana all the time, and just be a marine biologist. I thought that was like, I don't know where I'd gotten that from, as a teenager in New York City. That I was going to go to Florida and
That's so funny. I mean, I remember being interviewed when I was 12 years old because something I used to do back then, and that was my dream. I wanted to be a marine biologist.
Really?
I did. See, we were destined.
What is this? What is this marine biology
I think it's
thing?
probably one of 5 things that we knew: a pilot, a marine biologist.
Well, biology, yeah, and it's like you can mix scuba diving with biology, and
It just sounded cool.
And then you didn't really have to be anywhere afterwards.
Yeah,
and I
you
saw
could just
myself,
swim and look at pretty fish, and I think at 12 years old,
write
that was
things
my idea
down
of what it was.
occasionally. Yeah,
kind of look cool.
not farm coral.
Anyway, we're way off topic. So this is actually a show about addiction, Joe, not marine biology. All right. So one more thing we actually do need to address are the Xanax. The middle schoolers using Xanax. What on earth
Do we
is
have
that
time to talk about that?
We
All
do,
right.
quickly, because I think it's really important.
Okay, middle school students aged 11 to 14 hospitalized after sharing Xanax pills. Isn't that nice?
That's. I mean, it happens.
Show and tell has definitely taken on a new meaning.
It's happening. It's happening more than we realize, and now it's making headlines.
Well, it happened in Santa Ana. Hello, at McFadden Intermediate School.
Now, how many kids?
Children, 11 students aged 11 to 14, kept one at a time were going to the nurse's office lethargic, tired, and out of it. So you had 11 14-year-old nodding off in the principal's office.
And the only reason it made headlines is because it was 11 of them all at once. But this happens in schools across the nation. This is happening every day. And we do need to raise awareness, and it's happening. It's happening way too often.
We just need to respect meds more and get them off. Get them out of the
Lock them
closet.
up. You need to put your prescription meds. If you've got a safe, and if you've got a gun safe, your prescription medications need to be right in there with your gun safe. I mean, you think I'm
Because nothing goes so well with firearms as such as Xanax.
They need to be locked up.
Yeah,
they need
no,
to
I
be treated
agree.
with
I
as
agree.
much respect as weapons. They need to be put in a lock and safe. They need to be locked away. They kill people too.
Yeah.
I'm being
An 11-year-old can't process Xanax like an adult. First of all.
or a 4-year-old, or a 5. I mean, who picks it up and goes, "This looks like candy. Let me take that."
Yeah, especially little Xanax bars look like Pez.
Right. Lock your meds up.
So, I mean, we've got that going on, and that's pretty disheartening. I'm so glad my kids are out of that range where they accidental overdosage. But luckily, we don't hear about it too much.
Well, just because we don't hear about it, Joe, doesn't mean it's not happening.
Such is true.
And it's unfortunate that that made headlines. And again, I'm saying it's because it was 11 kids that did it all at once, but it's happening every day.
So we have a very interesting guest on tonight. Welcome to the show, Rob J.
Thank you. Thank you for having me here. Really interesting listening to you guys talk at the opening of the show. There were so many things. And by the way, let me...
Rob, who are you?
Okay, I am a
And how'd you get in here?
Okay. I snuck in. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist who was in practice, both private practice and in hospitals for 30 some odd years. And I'm now in recovery. My disease progressed throughout my life, starting off like a lot of kids, just doing it recreationally once in a while, and it kept being a steady thing. With the stigma, I absolutely agree with that. With professionals, you've got a lot to lose. Doctors, dentists, pharmacists, therapists, anybody who has a license can lose that license. And so you really do not want people to know if you're using. The other thing that I find that happens a lot with professionals, and I've worked just extensively with professionals over the years, ran some recovery groups for doctors, dentists, pharmacists, a bunch of people. And because they've got this license, because they have this advanced degree, there's a sense of nothing like that can happen to me. I don't get sick. I'm a
So
doctor. I
they
don't get
even
sick.
believe it themselves.
Yeah.
How can this happen to me?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and part of it is alcoholism and addiction is it's a disease that tells you don't have it, for the most part. And then when you have a degree in a health field,
Right.
it's really easy to say, well, I would know better. I would know if I was having trouble.
Or I should.
I should know better. But a lot of times, for most people, it doesn't start off right away. They don't go into it one day and say, gee, I think I'm going to become an addict today.
No one does. I think.
No, it starts off really slowly, and it's a slow, progressive patient disease. And that's pretty much what happened to me. Is I drank and used for many, many, many years. And I was a functional alcoholic. I didn't get DUIs. I didn't get drunk in publics. I didn't have a lot of the wreckage that a lot of people do. Never went to work drunk. Never, lost a job or a position because of drinking. But there was this other side. I would drink when I had a window of opportunity. I'd go home after working. When I started working just in hospitals, and then I worked in hospitals, and I had a practice for 30 some years. I'd go home after work and have a few drinks. And that went on for a while. And then the few became a few more.
I was going to ask you, what's a few to you?
That's a good question, because you get into that whole thing, what's normal?
Right.
Normal is an interesting term. Normal, for those of you who thought that you weren't going to use mathematics anymore after high school, you think about the bell curve. At 4%, one end of it, you've got really, really sick, extreme people. At the other end, you've got 4% of people who are really, really healthy. In terms of just people's personalities, I like to describe it as Charles Manson at one end and June Ward Cleaver at the other end. And then the big part of the curve.
Walt Disney
Is
over here,
everybody else.
Stephen King over here.
Yeah. The big part of the curve is where most of us are. We're lumped together kind of halfway between. So there's a real difference that I see between being healthy and being normal. Being normal, most people have that problem. And if you grew up in a house where people drank, where people used, you're going to see that as normal.
Right.
That's one of the things that leads to that.
So your curve will get shifted to the right.
Absolutely.
Towards Charles Manson.
Absolutely, yeah. That's kind of a normal thing. You get into that whole thing about, is it genetics or is it a learned behavior? I don't think that's as important as recognizing that you have the problem and doing something about it. awful lot of people, I'd say the majority of people come from families with some kind of alcoholism. I did not come from that kind of background. There's nobody in my family that I know of that has any problem with chemicals. My dad used to drink a beer. Now what he used to do is he would mow the lawn on Saturdays and he would get a can of beer and he would drink half of it while he was mowing the lawn. And then leave the rest. I could never understand why somebody would leave a drink. But, I mean, that was, you know.
Well, if you have a riding mower, I mean, that sounds like it'd be probably, there's probably some John Deeres with, you know, dual cup holders too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and, you know, that with alcohol as well as with other chemicals, you know, typically the warning is don't operate heavy machinery. Heavy machinery is not just things that we classically think of it as heavy. They are automobiles, ride-on tractors. There's an awful lot of things that if you're impaired, you're going to run into a problem. But I grew up with that background of not really having that modeling, not having that genetics. So I had to teach myself slowly over the years by just continuing. And at the beginning, you know, really being functional. I went to work every day with a coat and tie, and I was on staff at multiple hospitals. Was just well known, well respected. But I'd go home and I was a closet drinker. I'd drink at night. I would drink on the weekends. If I went on vacation, wow, that was a real good opportunity.
So did you qualify as a heavy drinker? So which is more than 4 drinks in a session, and typically a day? For a male.
Yeah.
It's 3 for, but believe it or not, anybody listening out there, a heavy user of alcohol is, if you're an adult male, it's 4 drinks. Female, 3 drinks. That's not that much.
That actually really isn't.
No. I mean, if you space it out, and if you're a regular drinker, your liver can tolerate. I mean, your metabolism can tolerate it.
That happened to me, you know, because when I was first drinking, I wasn't a heavy drinker. I'd start off and I'd go home and I'd have a drink or two. And then the 2 became 3. When I was, you know, towards the end of my drinking career, you know, the 3 became 4 and 5, and it became around the clock. So my tolerance went way up. I could pretty much drink around the clock and seem to function. And my wife could tell that something was wrong. And of course, you know.
Yeah, I always find that interesting how people are like, well, I was functioning, and
nobody could tell. Yeah, I always get that.
Yeah, maybe you want to ask the people closest to you about how well you actually were functioning.
Right. Yeah. Well, after the fact, since I got sober, in retrospect, I can see that there was wreckage all along the way, and just, you know, recently, my wife had mentioned that to me multiple times, that you might want to look at your drinking, and. Of course, hey, I'm the one with the license. I'm the one who's been practicing for years and years.
Of course, mind your own business.
You're not.
Yeah.
But it took a lot of personal wreckage that wasn't evident to other people. And I think that's the case with a lot of professionals, is they're doing this, but until something happens, until somebody recognizes it, the family intervenes, or a patient complains, or something happens because somebody else has noticed it, the job's the last thing to go.
It typically is. I was about to say that. You're right.
Yeah.
The job is usually the last to go.
But we talk about gateway drugs. Alcohol was my gateway drug. It was my drug of choice. I tried just about everything else under the sun. Never tried this new one in Arizona.
Yeah, it's pretty new.
Yeah.
I haven't tried it either.
Never tried that. Never tried heroin or bath salts.
Well, apparently it's coming to California, so
That's
just to hang on.
scary.
You can get it from the vending machine.
Yeah, that's
Really?
really scary. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's
just
terrifying.
with the way things are today, I mean, drug use is rampant, and kids are getting younger and younger and younger all the time. When I was a kid, when I was in high school, you'd maybe smoke a cigarette behind the stadium, or, you know, have beers on the weekend or something like that in high school, once in a while.
And
it's younger and younger.
And that's what we were talking about today, about but we had access to different things. And we did not have easy access to the substances that they have easy access to today. So
Yeah.
I don't know where you're going with that.
Yeah.
We had cigarettes, we had alcohol, and we had pot.
Yeah.
And those were the things that we were heavily into.
Yeah.
But there was respect for these for these drugs and for the medications. Like there was Valium in the 70s and 80s, but you know it was always the one person on your block that you heard about. But I don't know if it was just
I don't know if
had it
respect is
just
the right
not.
word, just that it wasn't as easily available, right? It wasn't like people
I don't
passing
know.
that out in school.
Well,
No. I mean,
like they are here today.
well, it was a lot of weed and
There's a lot-
cocaine. You know,
there's a lot of weed. Least it's-
marijuana and cocaine are right in the
Yeah.
80s.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
70s and
And
80s.
I
LSD and psychedelics
I
in the
went
60s.
to high school in the 60s.
Okay, yeah.
So then
So you had
it
access
was,
to a lot of different stuff than we did.
yeah, it was, alcohol was the thing you wanted to do, but if you weren't 21, you couldn't get it, so you had to find somebody to get it for.
Uh-huh.
Marijuana, you could score that from so many people that you knew, your friends. It was really easy to get marijuana, and then of course, somebody else would have some acid, or they'd have some street amphetamines, or they'd have this or that or the other thing. So that stuff was available. Of course, then when you turn 21, you can really get into drinking. But usually if you've started with those other drugs, they continue to some degree.
So what was the difference in society back then that allowed these drugs to remain fringe, and now they're mainstay?
Yeah, I think it's a couple things. One of them is that there is more of a problem today. Kids are using younger and younger and younger. And the other one is the media. It's people are hearing more about it. This show is a great example of getting the word out there to people that you can have problems with chemicals, and you don't always see the symptoms. That was my case. But there's also recovery. There's also things that you can do when you do finally recognize that you have a problem. Took me, because I didn't have a lot of the external trappings, it took me putting myself in really, really dangerous situations, and then finally physically hurting myself to the extent that now I'm waiting on having a back surgery that were all alcohol related. And then, of course, how I got here, which is what you asked me earlier. I haven't been in practice for several years. During that time, my drinking has increased real significantly. Prior to not working, I was an aficionado of microbrews. I had been to all the microbreweries all up and down the coast. When I stopped, finally, I was drinking the cheapest beer I could find. And, that's just the progression of it. That's where it led me. And,
Alcoholics are not drinking Grey Goose typically.
No. Well, if you got the money, you can do that.
They're drinking Fleischers or Popovs or
Yeah.
some
When
bottom shelf stuff.
Yeah, when I was successful, way back when, I was making a real good living. I had a nice house in Yorba Linda on a half acre. I could go on vacations whenever I wanted to do that. So I could buy the nice, microbrewers. I could try the single malt or drink the single malt scotch. I could do that stuff. But as the disease progresses and as things get rougher and rougher in your life, that becomes less available, and so you turn to whatever you can find.
What was the turning point for you? A lot of people wonder when is that going to happen to me? Okay, I'm a heavy drinker. How do I know I'm become an alcoholic? What was the point of no return for you? Because you said you had a couple of drinks. Most people have a couple of drinks,
Yeah.
a couple of times a week when they get home.
Yeah, some of the
That's
things.
not abnormal.
Some of the things that happened to me over the last couple of years. Boy, if you want to talk about denial, I haven't been.
I
working.
do want to talk about that.
I haven't been working for a few years, so I have a really great opportunity to drink. Several things happened. One of them is a couple of years ago, I had a cancer scare. I had a lump on above my liver. Went into the emergency room, and they did some tests, and they said, well, it looks like you have cancer. You gotta
Oh,
stop
geez.
drinking. This is July 3rd. Why couldn't it have been July 5th? I could have kept drinking.
Yeah, at least for another day.
Yeah. But, and I got CAT scans and MRIs and ultrasounds and everything under the sun. And after about a month of, waiting to get chemotherapy and shave my hair off and stuff, they said, oops, no, it's what's called a hemangioma. It's like a varicose vein on your liver. You don't have cancer.
They couldn't tell the difference? That's so easy to tell the difference.
No, I went to cancer specialists.
Didn't they do a biopsy?
No, they hadn't got far enough to do a biopsy, but
okay.
they'd done all the tests, and they finally decided that, I didn't have that. My liver panels have always come back good. Never had elevated SGOT or triglycerides or anything. Everything's always come back great.
Okay, so you're looking at a diagnosis of cancer. How is that gonna change your drinking career?
Well, I had to quit, and so
Okay.
for about a month or 6 weeks, I quit until I found out, gee, I don't have cancer. It's not because of drinking.
Yeah.
It's from something else. So, well, let's celebrate that I don't have cancer.
Mm-hmm.
So back to drinking. I had an episode where I lost urinary control. I basically peed on myself.
Did you have a seizure?
No, I didn't have a seizure. But I recognized that, something's wrong here. I went to the emergency room. At 11 o'clock in the morning, I had a 0.34 alcohol, which is
That's respectable.
pretty decent. And so, okay, alcohol is causing me to lose bladder control. I had a physical about a month later.
I'm sorry I'm laughing, but yeah, you would think that might be a red flag.
Yeah, in retrospect, absolutely, a lot of red flags.
Yeah.
But the doctor said, we were talking about this earlier with testosterone,
Yeah.
I had a prostate problem. He said, all the symptoms that you're having are because of your prostate. We can give you medication for that. Hooray, I get to drink some more.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. The thing that really got my attention, and it didn't stop me at the time, was I decided one day I was down at the market getting my $2 quarts of beer with a shopping cart full, and I was pretty buzzed at the time. I decided to go right on the shopping cart. You push it really fast and then you jump on it and ride it.
Which is so fun, but yeah.
Yeah, but because I was intoxicated, I slipped off and I fell. And I wasn't going really fast, but I was going fast enough that I crushed some of the discs in my lumbar vertebrae.
So you landed on your tailbone, or you landed on your back?
I kind of rolled.
Nice.
And I've got really severe stenosis. The nerves in my back are now pinched to the point that I have trouble walking. I can't stand still. Sometimes they'll just go numb. And so, I went through physical therapy and a lot of other things, but what's going to happen is because of the damage that I did because of my drinking, I'm going to need surgery. And, I recognized there was a problem there, but I still kept drinking because...
Yeah, that's another red flag.
Yeah, well, in retrospect, I've got a lot of them. But because I was in pain because of my back, well, I got to medicate, so I continued to drink.
Did your doctor offer you pain pills?
Yeah, I did that for a while.
Okay.
Wasn't quite the
Did that
same
become a
as-
problem?
Didn't really become a problem. That wasn't my drug of choice. And actually, alcohol worked better for me because I could drink, and in 3 or 4 minutes, I would get relief. The pain pills took an hour. So that became my drug of choice, and it didn't work as well for me. Might work for other people, but
I've heard that before.
yeah, I could be sure that I could take a drink, and pretty quickly I'd get relief. But the thing that really gave me that moment of clarity, as they say, about 1.5 years ago. Now I had cut way back on my drinking up to that point, and I for years hadn't been doing a lot of the things that I did when I was younger. And that list is extensive. But I cut way back on the drinking. I wasn't drinking very much, or as much, relatively speaking. And friend of mine who works at the station here said, would you like to come in and watch this recovery show? Because he knew that I had worked in the field for years and years and years. So I was sitting here watching the show. Dr. Joe, you were gone. Angelina was here. There was a couple other people here. But the thing that struck me is there were several kids that were in their early 20s that had several months to maybe several years of sobriety, clean and sober, weren't using at all. And it just hit me right between the eyes. What a hypocrite I was. Here's these kids, they're way healthier than me. I got all this head knowledge. I know all about this stuff. And it turned me around. I started going to 12-step meetings, got a sponsor, worked the steps, did all the things they recommend that you do, and had a real turnaround. I mean, just amazing with my ability to think more clearly. I lost 22 pounds in less than a year.
Oh my goodness.
And you gotta
Which was
think,
probably really good for your back.
yeah. The other thing that had happened, especially over the last few years, it had got worse. You were talking earlier about testosterone. Well, that's one of the things that happened is my testosterone level went way down. I didn't have any energy. I was depressed. Was having sexual problems. All the typical things that you get with a low testosterone level. That has improved since I stopped drinking.
Oh, wow.
So,
Did you get your levels checked by a physician?
yes,
And were they low?
they were low.
You remember your number?
I don't remember my number, but I know that they did a repeat test at about 8 months, and they were still lower than they should be. So, the predicament I'm in now is because I've got a back problem. I would love to be able to exercise. I was really active. I was an avid hiker. I backpacked for years and years. I did rock climbing. I did mountain biking. I was a race director for 5 and 10K runs for about 5 years at one of the hospitals I worked in.
Oh, wow.
This run, I don't want to identify myself, probably nobody will know. This run was called the Run for Sobriety. It was to raise money for treatment for alcoholics.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, and it's that was when I was in my running phase. So
From or towards?
Yeah. So how long do you have now?
about a year and a half.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
And things have improved significantly. My wife is just very, very happy. My kids have noticed the difference. But it wasn't, the effects that I had weren't really available to other people to see. They were just at home. So they were the ones that noticed things were getting worse and worse. And I got a lot of support from them right now.
And you're feeling better. And
yeah.
You look amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's really cool. The show is kind of pivotal in your recovery.
Absolutely,
I think so
absolutely.
too.
That was my aha moment when
Awesome.
I realized that, gosh, here's people way younger than me, less knowledge, less clinical practice, and they're healthier than me.
And those people that were in that room, those young guys that were in that room that day, had such a profound effect on you.
Oh,
That's incredible.
absolutely.
They
yeah.
they helped change your life during that day.
Any closing thoughts from you?
I really liked that. That was powerful. And, mistakes can be made, but it's freeing, allowing yourself to live your truth. And, there might be some wreckage behind you, but taking responsibility for that. And if there's legal ramifications, if there's a license that you go on probation for, and things like that, then so be it. But at least you get to move on from this point
Yes.
forward with freedom.
I haven't seen anybody come back from something that's, you would look at it and say, there's no way somebody can come back from that. They have come back from that. There's nothing that you cannot come back from.
Absolutely.
Remember that. We're here to help you. Tune in next week. Dads and grads, fathers who are doing it,
Our
and
old
husbands
buddy.
that are doing it in sobriety.
Yeah.
We're gonna have Jason Lawson on the show next week, and you had a little sample of him at my birthday show, but he's hysterical, and
He is.
next week's gonna be a fun show. Ange, have a good night, have a good week.
You too.
Rob J.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ripper, thanks on the board. Gia, thanks on the phone. And Austin, thanks for being our media specialist
All
now.
right.
We are going to be on YouTube in a couple of weeks.
Can't wait to see that.
So keep an eye out for our
not.
live channel and our recorded channel, the best of our shows. We'll see you next week, guys. This is a recovery show. I'm Dr. Joe.
And I'm Angelina.
And until then, stay close.
It's never that bad. Taking up someone who's been where you're at. We're laid out on the floor, and you're not sure you can take this anymore. So just give it one more try.